Is your AI built for everyone? Or is it built to work with the tools your business relies on? IBM's AI agents are tailored to your business and can easily integrate with the tools you're already using. So they can work across your business, not just some parts of it. Get started with AI agents at IBM.com. The AI built for business. IBM.
As the main character of your life, you know how important it is to make the right choices for you and how sweet it is to feel good about your decisions. With the State Farm Personal Price Plan, you have options to help create an affordable price for you so you can continue living your best life. Talk to a State Farm agent today to learn how you can choose to bundle and save with the Personal Price Plan. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. Prices are based on rating plans that vary by state. Coverage options are selected by the customer. Availability, amount of discounts and savings, and eligibility vary by state.
Every idea starts with a problem. Warby Parker's was simple. Glasses are too expensive. So they set out to change that. By designing glasses in-house and selling directly to customers, they're able to offer prescription eyewear that's expertly crafted and unexpectedly affordable. Warby Parker glasses are made from premium materials like impact-resistant polycarbonate and custom acetate. And they start at just $95, including prescription lenses. Get glasses made from the good stuff. Stop by a Warby Parker store near you.
A new era of power has arrived with the Alienware Area 51 gaming laptops, intentionally engineered to push more power to the CPU and GPU for maximum performance. This otherworldly power, paired with the game-changing AI capabilities of NVIDIA GeForce RTX 50 series GPUs with DLSS4, amplifies performance and image precision for ultra-smooth, stunning gameplay. And with the new cryo chamber design, airflow is focused exactly where it's needed most. Fused with Alienware's enhanced thermal solutions, it creates a higher power output without raising noise levels, allowing you to play with confidence even during the most demanding marathon gaming sessions. So no matter what you are playing, Alienware ensures every game runs precisely as its developers intended. A new era of power is here. All you have to do is take it. Discover Area 51 today at Alienware.com.
This is the Daily Tech News for Friday, July 18th, 2025. We tell you what you need to know, follow up on the context of those stories, and try to help each other understand.
Today, developers, protect your development assets, or you might get fired and your friends might get sued. Like Apple is suing Jon Prosser.
Oh, yeah, that's a real thing. I'm Tom Merritt.
I'm Wind Dow.
Let's start with what you need to know with the big story. Apple is suing the host of the YouTube channel Front Page Tech, Jon Prosser, as well as Michael Ramaciotti in the U.S. District Court in the Northern District of California for misappropriation of trade secrets and violation of the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act. Specifically, Apple says the two people, quote, conspired to break into an Apple employee's development iPhone to take Apple's trade secrets. According to Apple, Ramaciotti was staying with a friend named Ethan Lipnick, who worked on software designs at Apple. And he got Lipnick's access code, probably looked over his shoulder or something, who knows, and was able to get into a development iPhone that had development software on it. And then Ramaciotti used a location tracking tool to make sure that Lipnick was far from home at a time when he thought he'd be out for a while, then made a FaceTime call to Jon Prosser, where he allegedly showed off an early version of designs of what we now know as iOS 26. Apple contends that Prosser captured the screens and then had others make mock-ups based on them. And the reason you do that instead of just showing the screens is that can hide the origin of the video. Apple uses identifiers in development software to help identify sources of leaks like this. However, apparently they left in views of Lipnick's apartment and some of those mock-ups, and somebody recognized it and told Lipnick about it after Prosser published the videos using those mock-ups. He started with one about the camera in January that was partially accurate, and maybe things changed between January and the summer, but kept publishing things through April, showing things like the Messages app, some of the liquid glass design that ended up being very close to what was shipped. Apple says an anonymous tip informed it of the leak, and it subsequently fired Lipnick for failing to protect confidential information and failing to disclose the leak. So whoever told Lipnick, I saw your apartment, might have also told Apple. We don't know. In the court case, and fired Lipnick, Apple says it also has a voice note from Ramaciotti apologizing to Lipnick and blaming Prosser. Apple claims Prosser promised to pay Ramaciotti for the information. How they got a hold of that voice message, we don't know. In the court case, Apple asks for an injunction directing Prosser and Ramaciotti not to make, use, or disclose Apple's confidential, proprietary, and trade secret information to third parties without written consent. I'm guessing they won't get any written consent. And to destroy any such material that they possess. Company is also seeking damages and is requesting a jury trial because there was other stuff on that development phone. They don't know what else was accessed. On X, Prosser wrote, "This is not how things went down on my end. Looking forward to being able to speak to Apple about it. For the record, I certainly did not plot to access anyone's phone and was unaware of the situation playing out." Now, in these cases, usually your lawyer tells you don't say anything at all. But what Prosser seems to be saying is, I was not aware. I didn't plan anything, so you can't get me on conspiracy. And I didn't know any of this was going on. I just received information is probably going to be what his defense would be if this does go to jury trial. Huyen, you're a developer. So does this strike too close to home? What do you think?
It really does. And specifically, like I worked at some larger companies the last 10 years, and it is very specific. In when you sign a work agreement, especially at companies like this, where, it is of interest to people what you're working on, especially ahead of time, you sign a lot, you agree to many, many statements about not only not yourself leaking information, but also making sure that you do your dangdest to prevent that from happening, securing materials, and also that you acknowledge that if you are aware of something like this happening, you need to inform the right person as soon as possible. That's your responsibility. So it is, and it's really funny because I usually sign these things thinking, well, I mean, I don't know if that'll ever happen to me. It's kind of like, oh yeah, sure. Legal blah, 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 blah. I wouldn't, who would ever want to know what I work on at work? Sure. And to see it play out so intricately and so specifically is actually fascinating to me because oh, okay, so this is what they're talking about when I sign those things to go to work, and this is what they mean when they say, hey, don't just leave your work stuff just hanging out where someone could see it. Because I mean, I think I don't know, just as a regular dev, I'm usually not necessarily working on things of so much interest, but okay, it happens. And I think it's just incredible to see, okay, there's a reason why these legalese exist. So that's my first impression is okay.
Yeah, it's a bit. I mean, Apple is filing a court case, so it is to their advantage to make it sound as dramatic as possible. Right?
Yes, that's fair.
But it does sound really dramatic. This sort of scheming plan to make sure he was away. They put a tracker on him. I'm like, did they put it makes it sound like they fired a dart out of it or something.
Or
I'm guessing that they just had Find My iPhone and I have some friends that we have Find My's, so maybe it was just that or something like that. It probably wasn't quite that devious, but if true, it does describe a betrayal of a friendship, right? I'm sure Lipnick just thought oh, my friend's staying with me and I don't have to worry about him. And he might have needed to worry about him.
Yeah, that's actually the most upsetting part to me. It's like someone who's familiar enough to stay at your house and then they totally betray your trust. And not only that, I don't understand how I'm still trying to understand how the apartment ended up in the mock-ups. You know what I mean? I
think, if I understand it right, Ramaciotti made the FaceTime call to Prosser from that apartment, from Lipnick's apartment. Okay. And then in the screenshots, the apartment was in the background. Okay. And maybe when they were showing the camera or something, there was a piece of furniture and they kept that in the mock-up. Is my guess something like that? Maybe, I don't know. Okay.
Yes, that's okay. I was expecting, to hear that, someone else came down from the ceiling, like all the Tom Cruise in Mission Impossible. Sure. Yeah. Or maybe they slipped something in Lipnick's coffee, like they did to, I forget the name of the poor gentleman in the first movie that they sent off to Alaska. Go to the emergency room. Yeah, emergency room. Yeah, something like that. But no, I mean, it's just kind of funny. It's both mundane in that, that's very unfortunate that you're taking advantage of your friend because of where they work, but also there's like a weird, interesting mundanity in like, oh wow, you can actually track someone without their knowledge fairly easily and steal information relatively easily, like access code. Presumably, he didn't hack it, quote unquote, or anything. He just saw it. It's so interesting because also, and this kind of shows that a lot of times with technology, unfortunately, the failing point is human beings. Because I actually got frightened, like, oh, you guys use identifiers in the software to track who has what? That's pretty cool. Like from like that makes a lot of sense. But the fact that it is, and I think that's why companies are aware that, again, the human element is when these things happen. So yes, I mean, I don't know if they're like, dude, sorry. After you learned that your friend kind of, did a dirty on you, you should have just reported it to the office, and maybe that could have saved you. But
if there is any blame on Lipnick, and again, if Apple's allegations are true,
they're true,
would be the that would be the one thing Lipnick should have done. Otherwise, it does feel like he is the victim in most of this. I mean, the other thing he should have done, this is not a legal thing, and certainly I totally understand this. Like, I bet Lipnick had told himself, I really need to make the passcode a little more complicated. I should get around to doing that. Because if it had been complicated enough, maybe it would have been harder to guess. Or I don't know, maybe it was really complicated and Ramachodi was just good at memorizing things.
Yeah.
Who knows? It definitely reminds me of a couple situations. I used to live in a condo in Oakland next door to a designer for Apple.
Oh.
And I didn't really spend a lot of time in his house or anything, but I remember was when I was working at CNET feeling terrified talking to him if work ever came up that I was going to compromise him somehow. Like, I didn't want to accidentally trick him into telling me something that I shouldn't know. So I get the perilous situation they're in. And the other thing is my sister-in-law works for Apple. She's not in any of the areas that would really interest me, but, we just don't talk about it. And her husband works for The Verge.
Yes.
So that's something where they have to have, strict limits. And he, to his credit, has recused himself from doing any reporting on Apple because of that. But there's
makes sense.
You have to take these kinds of things that may seem a little exaggerated, because if you don't, there's these edge cases that could play out that could be, pretty serious.
Okay, so let me ask you this as a journalist, because I think, as just someone who works in tech, and especially seeing as someone in tech, but also someone who does what we do in Android Faithful, and it feels like half of what we talk about are leaks, and I presume that at least some of these leaks fall under this kind of thing where someone is breaking an employment agreement somewhere, so taking that aside, and if things went down as Apple alleges, I don't know, do you have I don't even know where to start with this question, but I guess, how do you feel about, if things went down as Apple alleges, how do you feel about this from, I guess, how the information was obtained, and how it was presented, and I don't know, like, I guess ignoring what, what is good for Prosser legally now, but I don't know, like, what is your take on this?
No, it's a totally fair question, because you look at what Mark Gurman does, where he consistently gets very reliable information early out of Apple, and he never gets sued. Even when he wasn't at Bloomberg, he didn't get sued. He's very good at cultivating the sources, protecting the sources, and walking the line. And Ming-Chi Kuo is another one who generally gets his information from industry sources in the supply chain rather than directly from Apple. But same thing. You don't see Ming-Chi Kuo getting sued because he's very good at understanding that line. Jon Prosser didn't understand that line, again, if all of this is true. And honestly, Apple doesn't sue if they don't have a reasonable suspicion that this is true. Apple doesn't sue about these things. They get upset. They may fire employees, but they almost never sue anyone. So you have to really cross over some ethical lines and legal lines for this sort of thing. On the Prosser side of things, to get directly to your question, as a journalist, you have to protect your sources and you have to verify your sources, and you shouldn't report on anything that was illegally obtained unless you're dealing with like extreme public interest, right?
Yeah.
I'm reporting on a dictator in a country, and so I'm technically breaking the law, but the ethics say I'm doing more good than harm. Early looks at liquid glass don't fall under that for me. So
fair.
I think what Prosser is trying to say is like, I just got a leak from someone. It seemed reasonable that it was true, and I reported it. I didn't know where it was from, but as a journalist, you need to know. That is one of the questions you ask is this true? How did you get it? Where did you get it? You have to know those things to know whether it's verifiable or not. And it sounds like either he didn't do that work or he turned a blind eye to something that he knew was illegal, which in a journalistic enterprise, which he's not, he's a YouTuber, but in a journalistic enterprise, I don't think an editor would allow that.
Yeah, I just thought it was so interesting because, again, it feels like, as you said, there are a lot of people that have a lot of very, reliable information. And again, just to reiterate the point, they're probably someone's breaking an employment contract somewhere. But as you said, this is normally not a big deal. It just happens. And the degree to which the importance of the information leak just never feels like something that actually threatens a business or launch or anything. But yeah, it is surprising that this has gone to this level. I actually was kind of shocked, as you said, that Apple's suing. But
Lipnick had knowingly showed it,
yes,
would made all the difference. As a journalist, I can say like, look, this employee decided to risk his employment, and as long as eyes wide open, they know that, and I'll try to protect that source because I think this is an important story. That's a whole different situation. But this was not obtained in that way.
It kind of makes me a little bit sad because I think, and how can I phrase this? That's good for my, I think in a lot of times, again, we see these things, and we sign these things and we just kind of hope that, we're also regular people, right?
Yeah, right.
We're just average people living our lives doing a job. It just so happens that we do our job for X company, FANG company. And you think, okay, yeah, it's no big deal. I don't work for the CIA. I don't work for X company. I can just leave my phone around with my friend and it should be fine.
I'm not working on the most secret project in the world. Why would anyone?
Why would anyone care? But it just, okay, well, just goes to show you that if you signed something, then maybe just regardless of who it is, be careful. Well,
indeed.
Okay, I'm going to go reread my employment agreement after this, I think, just to be sure.
Right. I get it. I get why you would feel that way.
Well, DTNS is made possible by you, the listener. We want to take the time to thank Jeffrey Zilks, Alo, Adam L., and Tony Glass.
Yay! Thanks, patrons.
Picture this. You're in the garage, hands covered in grease, just finished up tuning your engine with a part you found on eBay, and you realize, you know what? I could also use new brakes. So where do you go next? Back to eBay. You can find anything there. It's unreal. Wipers, headlights, even cold air intakes. It's all there. And you've got eBay Guaranteed Fit. You order a part, and if it doesn't fit, send it back. Simple as that. Look, DIY fixes can be major. Doesn't matter if it's just maintenance or a major mod. You got it, especially when things are guaranteed to fit. So when you dive into your next car project, start with eBay. All the parts you need at prices you'll love. Guaranteed to fit every time. eBay. Things people love.
I'm no tech genius, but I knew if I wanted my business to crush it, I needed a website now. Thankfully, Bluehost made it easy. I customized, optimized, and monetized everything exactly how I wanted with AI. In minutes, my site was up. I couldn't believe it. The search engine tools even helped me get more site visitors. Whatever your passion project is, you can set it up with Bluehost. With their 30-day money-back guarantee, what have you got to lose? Head to Bluehost.com to start now.
What makes a great pair of glasses? At Warby Parker, it's all the invisible extras without the extra cost. Their designer quality frames start at $95, including prescription lenses, plus scratch-resistant, smudge-resistant, and anti-reflective coatings, and UV protection, and free adjustments for life. To find your next pair of glasses, sunglasses, or contact lenses, or to find the Warby Parker store nearest you, head over to warbyparker.com. That's warbyparker.com.
Avoiding your unfinished home projects because you're not sure where to start? Thumbtack knows home so you don't have to. Don't know the difference between matte paint finish and satin? Or what that clunking sound from your dryer is? With Thumbtack, you don't have to be a home pro. You just have to hire one. You can hire top-rated pros, see price estimates, and read reviews all on the app. Download today.
If your dog could talk, they'd beg for Ollie. The full-body tail wag, the excited little hops, the big, goofy grin, that's the Ollie effect. Ollie delivers clean, fresh nutrition in 5 drool-worthy flavors, even for the pickiest eaters. Made in U.S. kitchens with high-quality, human-grade ingredients, Ollie's food contains no fillers, no preservatives, just real food. Just fill out Ollie's 30-second quiz and they'll create a customized meal plan based on your pup's weight, activity level, and other health info. Dogs deserve the best, and that means fresh, healthy food. Head to ollie.com/healthypup, tell them about your dog, and use code HEALTHYPUP to get 60% off your welcome kit when you subscribe today. Plus, they offer a happiness guarantee on the first box, so if you're not completely satisfied, you'll get your money back. That's OLLIE.com/healthypup and enter code HEALTHYPUP to get 60% off your first box.
There's more we need to talk about today. Let's get to the briefs.
All right, well, OpenAI is adding a new beta feature for subscribers to its Pro, Plus, and Team plans called ChatGPT Agent. The new feature combines the operator agent, which can control a computer, with the deep research function that can do an in-depth study. The agent uses a virtual machine to carry out its tasks. You have to authorize it to do things like access email or make purchases or take other consequential actions. You can interrupt the actions at any time, and it can be used to automate work tasks, schedule appointments, plan itineraries, and more. Pro users get 400 messages a month, and Plus and Team users get 40. Enterprise and education users will get access in the coming weeks.
You know what my biggest problem with this feature? I haven't gotten it yet. I really want to try this out. I think it's really interesting because it may get lost on some people. Like, it's two things that already exist, deep researcher and operator. They could already operate things for you on your computer, but it's combining the two so that the operator is smarter. You know, like when you say create a travel itinerary, it can use the deep research to really get good information. You know, if you're like, I want to tour that coffee farm, you know, it can find the best one and all of that. So I think it's interesting to see how that plays out.
Yeah, I think these two things are the most compelling things to me. Both agentic AI in general, I think makes so much sense, as well as deep research, because again, things that a computer can do, or just anything that is based in silicon, can do a lot faster than a human being can do. So I really think this is super interesting, and I would definitely try it. So
I would love to try it too, as soon as it rolls out to me. Because I pay for the Plus service, so I keep going to my drop down. I'm like, when is it coming? When is it coming? The U.S. House has passed the Genius Act. This is just a follow-up because we've been talking about this. The Genius Act is the one that sets rules about the use of stable coins in the United States. The bill was sent to the president, and I just checked. By the time you listen to this, it probably will have been signed into law, but it hasn't right this second. The regulations require stablecoins to be backed by either 1-to-1 U.S. dollars or 1-to-1 other low-risk assets, and it defines what those are. Stablecoins are used to make transactions between currencies faster and easier. They're not a money-making coin themselves. They're a store of value that is reliable outside of the normal systems that are costlier and slower. Cryptocurrency firms already use these to store cash. A lot of times if you cash out on like a Coinbase or something, you can have your money stored in a stable coin. But more traditional financial institutions would like to use them as well to reduce their cost of moving money around. But they were waiting for clarity on their legal status in the country because they're much more conservative about that sort of thing. The House also sent 2 bills to the U.S. Senate for consideration. If you've been following this, you know one of them would ban the U.S. government from making its own digital currency, central bank digital currency, and the other would set regulations for other kinds of cryptocurrencies that aren't stable coins, including classifying cryptocurrencies as a commodity rather than a security. So now the Senate will debate those. Those might pass, but the Genius Act was almost certain to pass. The other two, a little less certain.
Does Genius stand for something? This is not really relevant.
It's a backronym of some sort.
Okay.
Yes, it stands for something.
Okay, it's a backronym. That's all I need to know. Thank you. Sorry.
Yep.
All right. Well, Meta has declined to sign Europe's voluntary code of practice on AI. The code is meant to help companies stay in compliance with the EU's AI Act by engaging in certain kinds of transparency and reporting not required by the laws, but is also meant to give companies legal protection from any alleged violations. Meta will now have to demonstrate its compliance in other ways and may receive more regulatory scrutiny as a result. Meta says the code introduces legal uncertainties and goes too far beyond the requirements of the AI Act.
So my translation of this is Meta's lawyers looked at the guidelines and said, well, we don't want to do that, and I don't think we're legally required to. And Meta's executives said, so if we don't follow this, it makes things better for us and we can waste a bunch of the EU's time by making them give us more regulatory scrutiny. Great. Sounds like a deal.
It's just... this is just one of the things, I really do appreciate a lot. I appreciate the spirit in which we often talk about stories from the EU trying to regulate certain things. And even as someone who really enjoys their job and enjoys tech and enjoys innovation, I would like a little more parental supervision at times. This is just hilarious to me because I think I always think all this is like a balance of understanding. And the challenge is to understand the technology enough to be like, okay, what do we need to actually regulate and how can we do it without, as always, the big thing is do not stifle innovation. But then it comes around to this where it's like, okay, we're just going to I'm trying to think of a polite word to say this, just mess around for a while with the EU and waste money and people's time.
A couple of other quick ones here. Netflix reported that its revenue grew 16%. That beats analyst estimates. And Netflix projected higher than expected revenue for the next quarter. Partly due to currency fluctuations, the weak dollar helps them, but also subscriber and ad growth. Netflix says it's on track to double its ad revenue this year, which it's coming from a small base, but that's still good. Netflix no longer reports subscriber numbers, but it did report that viewers watched 95 billion hours of content in the first half of the year, with the show Adolescence the most watched, followed by seasons 2 and 3 of Squid Game. The company also projected higher content sales and marketing costs. In the earnings call, co-CEO Ted Sarandos said for the first time Netflix used some AI models to make some special effects for the Argentine show The Eternaut. Sarandos said the cost of it wouldn't have been feasible for a show in that budget. And he also said, the CFO said that they're not interested in buying a legacy network, which they usually say they're not interested in doing things a couple of years before they do them. So keep an eye on that.
Tom, I do have to ask you something. Have you watched K-pop? Has anyone recommended to you K-pop Demon Hunters?
Oh, my, yes. Multiple times. And we watched it shortly after it came out, and we're like, oh, that was fun. We did not expect the overwhelming popularity that it's gotten. It's crazy.
I saw it, and I was telling people it reminded me of a show. The title itself reminded me of a show I used to watch for a little bit on the USA Network when I was in high school called Tattooed Teenage Alien Fighters from Beverly Hills, because it's just this weird munging of concepts. Yeah. And I've been surprised about how many of my friends, most of them with children, so that's how they kind of got into the show, have said, you have to watch this. I'm like, okay,
yeah.
Well,
same here. People who have no knowledge of K-pop are like, this show's great. I really enjoyed it. I like the music too. It's an amazing confluence of animation style and kind of the sort of High School Musical appeal, I think, a little bit too. And yeah, it's interesting to watch.
I think it was the studio that did Into the Spider-Verse? I could be wrong about that, but I thought that,
I think that's right. Yeah.
So if you like Into the Spider-Verse and you wanted more of that amazing animation, there you go.
Yeah.
All right, well, to switch tacks a little bit, Russia's deputy head of the lower house parliament, Anton Gorelkin, who oversees IT regulation, said that Meta should prepare to stop offering the WhatsApp service in the country. Russia designated Meta as an extremist organization and has already banned Facebook and Instagram in 2022. A list of banned services from, quote, unfriendly countries is set to be published on September 1st.
Yeah. And this clearly is part of a bunch of other stuff regarding the United States and Russia and Ukraine and all of that. But something to keep an eye on. If you, for some reason, need to travel to Russia and you use WhatsApp, that's something to be aware of. Speaking of Ukraine, Estonia's Thread Systems posted an 87% rise in its sales of unmanned aircraft in 2024. Ukraine regularly uses Thread's drones for surveillance in its war. Thread also develops electro-optical gimbals that that can be mounted on multiple kinds of drones and used as sensors. Thriad is pursuing a sale as demand for its products increased dramatically, with sales not only to Ukraine, but also 7 NATO countries. The Economist did an interesting story about the boom in technological advances in unmanned aerial vehicles in Ukraine because they had a bunch of startups doing this already. And then the needs of fighting the war have caused them to innovate on an accelerated timescale.
Literally necessity, invention. All right, well, DuckDuckGo is adding a setting to search that lets you filter out images made by image generators. In the image search section, choose the drop-down menu called AI Images and then choose Show or Hide. You can also turn it on in general search by tapping the Hide AI Generated Images option. DuckDuckGo uses an open source block list curated by humans.
And Windows Central noted a Microsoft support page change that says, and I'll read the whole thing, Microsoft no longer offers new entertainment content for purchase, including movies and TV shows on Microsoft.com, Microsoft Store on Windows, and the Microsoft Store on Xbox. However, you can continue to access your purchased content in the Movies and TV app on Xbox or Windows devices. Microsoft only sold movies and TV shows for Xbox and Windows. They never did it on mobile, and it stopped selling music in 2017.
All right, well, the Unicode Consortium announced the following new emojis coming to Unicode 17.0. Trombone, treasure chest, distorted face, fight cloud, apple core, orca, ballet dancers, and, quote, hairy creature. It's Bigfoot. It's Bigfoot, or any other name for
Bigfoot,
such.
and everybody's mad that they didn't call it Bigfoot, but nobody's mad that they called it Fight Cloud when it kind of looks like an atom, frankly.
It does. I don't know. Is this one of those things where I think they have like a paella? They have paella in the emojis, and they don't call it paella. They call it seafood something, and it's very confusing.
I think it's because they want to keep the descriptions as general as possible. That's a very standards organization thing to do, right?
Yeah. It's just, and I like that the emoji, at least given in as example, at least by Engadget, is that kind of like classic, the one video that someone has of a Bigfoot, which most people think is a dude in a suit anyway. I kind of like that small detail as well, that it's possibly just a man in a suit, and that is now immortalized as an emoji. By the way, Unicode 17.0 set to release September 9th.
All right, folks, you might not know this, but we have a live show separate from this show as well called DTNS Live. More casually just stream live and talk about the stories of the day. You can catch it at 4 p.m. Eastern at youtube.com/Daily Tech News Show.
Checking off the boxes on your to-do list is a great feeling. That's why a State Farm agent is there to help you choose a coverage option that's right for you. Whether you're getting a new house, car, boat, or RV, helping protect it is important. And State Farm is there to help you choose the coverage you need, whether you prefer talking in person, on the phone, or using the award-winning app. And with so many coverage options, it's nice knowing you have help finding coverage that best fits your needs, so you can continue to focus on what's most important to you. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
We all belong outside. We're drawn to nature, whether it's the recorded sounds of the ocean we doze off to, or the succulents that adorn our homes. Nature makes all of our lives, well, better. Despite all this, we often go about our busy lives removed from it. But the outdoors is closer than we realize. With All Trails, you can discover trails nearby and explore confidently. With offline maps and on-trail navigation, download the free app today.
We end every episode of DTNS with some shared wisdom. Today, Michael is helping us understand.
Michael writes, I was coding with ChatGPT, and I spent 5 hours on installing Homebrew and other software to turn my PDF sheet music books into 300 DPI JPEGs. Then AppleScript to load JPEGs sequentially into pages and resize them to 8.5 by 11. It took longer than I thought, but now it's amazing. Right-click on any PDF, and in seconds, a folder of JPEGs are created. I'm a trumpet player, but with AI and time, able to release my books as EPUBs. Enjoy your show as always. Michael, thank you for sharing this. That's pretty cool.
That's wonderful. So this is the thing that actually makes me really happy about generative AI being able to empower people to do things like that independently. Like this is awesome. This is what I think like the best, awesomest use case for the current like generation of AI is like enabling people like Michael to do like, I don't know, just do their own thing. I love it.
Yeah, Michael might not have the money to pay someone to do this, or might not know a friend who could do it or had the time to do it, and now could do it themselves. It's so cool.
All right, well, what are you thinking about? Do you have some insight into a story? Please share it with us. Feedback at dailytechnewsshow.com.
Thanks to Michael for contributing to today's show, and thank you for being along for Daily Tech News Show. You can keep us in business by becoming a patron at patreon.com/DTNS. This week's episodes of Daily Tech News Show Briefing were created by the following people. Host, producer, and writer Tom Merritt. Host and writer Jason Howell. Co-host Rob Dunwood. Co-host Jen Cutter. Co-host Wentway Dow. Producer Anthony Lemos. Producer Roger Chang. Editor Hammond Chamberlain. Editor Victor Bognot. Science correspondent Dr. Nikki Ackermans. Social media producer and moderator Zoe Detterding. Our mods, Beatmaster, W. Scottus1, BioCow, Captain Kipper, Steve Waterama, Paul Reese, Matthew J. Stevens, a.k.a. Gadget Virtuoso, and J.D. Galloway. Mod and video hosting by Dan Christensen. Music provided by Martin Bell and Dan Luters. Art by Len Peralta. Acast ad support from Tatiana Matias. Patreon support from Bobby Wagner. Our guest this week was Andy Beach. And thanks to all our patrons who make the show possible.
This show is part of the Frog Pants Network. Get more at frogpants.com.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.
I'm going to do that again because I bumped my mic.
If you're a lineman in charge of keeping the lights on, Grainger understands that you go to great lengths and sometimes heights to ensure the power is always flowing. Which is why you can count on Grainger for professional-grade products and next-day delivery, so you have everything you need to get the job done. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
What makes a great pair of glasses? At Warby Parker, it's all the invisible extras without the extra cost. Their designer quality frames start at $95, including prescription lenses, plus scratch-resistant, smudge-resistant, and anti-reflective coatings, and UV protection, and free adjustments for life. To find your next pair of glasses, sunglasses, or contact lenses, or to find the Warby Parker store nearest you, head over to warbyparker.com. That's warbyparker.com.